All right, we're recording. All right, so I'm so excited to have this person on our podcast today. I'm here with Sara Larkins, and Sara's just such a beautiful soul. And we met last year, and it's been every time welcome, Sara.
Hi, Raphael.
Every time I talk to Sara, it's just, you can tell it's just everything's just coming from the heart, and that's why I love our conversations, and I wanted to have one and share one with all of you, and share this experience with Sara. So I really appreciate your time, Sara. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you. And so. Let's start. Let's begin. Usually, what we do is we have that spiritual conversation, and wherever the conversation leads us. But in the beginning, I always like to kind of say, so that the ego doesn't creep in, the conversation afterwards. We always like to get the ego out of the way first, and just kind of talk about your projects or what you're doing or your background, and anything like that. So if it's you want to tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Okay. Well, that's a lot. Well, let's see. As far as education goes, I have dual undergraduate degrees in psychology and special ed, and I have completed all the coursework for master's in special education, severely handicapped. I was teacher for years in Los Angeles County. Then I found my love of artwork when the internet began. I was a web designer for Warner Brothers Online. Then pitched the project of LooneyTunes.com, produced LooneyTunes.com, became producer at Warner Brothers Online. Then gave birth to my second child and wanted to be home with my kids. So my husband and I started our own business. So we were entrepreneurs for 14 years and ran an in-home chef service because my husband was a hot LA chef at the time. And then we started our DBA at the same time. So I was the COO and the president of the company. And we ran the in-home chef service as well as we were part of the food truck revolution in LA County. And we ran that for 4 years. Then at the same time, all of that happened. We got the kids through middle school and high school, and moved to the Midwest, took care of my father, ushered him out. While I was there, I was Chief Innovation Officer at University of Nebraska Medical Center, College of Public Health. Went through the Ebola pandemic, and so COVID is my second pandemic. Far worse, that's for sure. And then that was just that needs a margarita and a really long evening with some guacamole. And then
I'm looking forward to it. I'm gonna hold it.
Then I was an IT project manager. I'm a certified Scrum Master and digital marketing manager and communications manager, and so on top that's my story there. My personal awakening story is, I'll try to be brief, but it's another long story. But it's it's as you and I have discussed, it was an awakening brought out of a negative experience, right? Mm-hmm. And that was a minor car accident that led to cervical spinal surgery, threat of quadriplegia, double staph infection from the surgeries, going septic, getting an overdose in the hospital while I had 107, 108 fever, seeing people that nobody else saw, and sorry, it's noisy. And then a near-death experience from the people that were trying so desperately to save my life accidentally overdosed me. And from that, I changed all my priorities and dropped every single thing I was doing, and then came out with an undying need to spiritually quest, because I knew the only thing that I had to bring forward was just me. It wasn't even clear. It was just I had to engage in sweat lodges and circles and all kinds of any kind of spiritual practices, Buddhist things, Hindi things, Native American things, anything, just voraciously spiritually quested for about 10 years. And then was also given a precancer diagnosis, got really effing ticked off at the spirit world and said, WTF, what do you want from me? And then I was reluctantly given my marching orders, which I didn't like, which was that I'm a medium and a psychic. And I was just like, no, that's not how I see myself. Sorry. But that was 17 years ago, and I have been serving and helping people, and it's tremendously rewarding. It has lended me unbelievable insights, and I should stop and listen to my own advice more often. But there you go. That's the long and the long of it.
That's easier said than done, right?
Oh my God.
It's interesting to me how, I mean, there's not everybody, obviously everyone has a different experience, but most people that I talk to, you know, the awakening comes after something, you know, like a traumatic experience or something, you know, like a car accident or death or a near death experience, or I don't know. It's usually, you know, it's interesting how that usually gets us to be able to whoop, wait a minute, like there's something different. There's something different. There's something different that's real. It's not what we think you know, what we think it was. And
well, even the Disney movies all start with the mother dying, right? There has to be some sort of traumatic explosion to start the ripple effect, right?
Yeah, right. It's interesting how that happens, and I feel like you know, with all this, you spoke about, you know, Ebola, and like now COVID. With all this, a lot of people are having to start facing their fears, right? A lot of fear comes out, and
Sure.
a lot of people are having to start, you know, having to face that, and it's like they can't run from, you can't run from it in this situation. It's like the whole world is telling everybody, go to your room, right? And so I think these type of conversations, I feel like, are going to help a lot of people, and you have so many insights. It's funny seeing you, but you're not cursing. You should.
Well, we haven't gotten started yet. I'm always using bad language. In advance, I'm sorry. I will be dropping F-bombs.
So after you had that awakening, I know you say it so casually. You're like, well, I gotten so many insights, but the insights are, you know, it's amazing. You know, it's amazing the gift that you have. So how I know we've spoken about this in yesterday in our on our mastermind call. You were so generous with your time and came in, and it was such a great call, and we got so much from it. But you explained to us a little bit about the process of how that happened, right? After you you started in that journey, searching in sweat lodges, and if you want to tell us, if it's okay to tell us a little bit more about that process.
Sure, sure. I want to address first something that you just said, which is the COVID virus. And I just want to remind people that what we're talking about here is containment. You know, if you're going to contain something, you have to just take the measures that are required to drive the containment into a healthy place, you know, where everybody's sheltered in place and contained, and then it doesn't spread. So it's a simple containment issue. It is not simple. I don't mean to say that. And it's challenging, and it challenges everybody. But it's simply containment, and then eradication. And then we have to bring the curve down, bring it into the ground, and then make sure it never comes back again. So it's simple science. That's what we're doing. And we do have the opportunity, because the world has slowed down and the expectation of output in our jobs has slowed down. So it does provide us the opportunity to do things like this. So, I'm trying to do my best to make lemonades out of lemons. So to answer your question, the journey that I had, my spiritual journey, really started after the overdose. I just felt completely compelled to voraciously spiritually quest and to get as much insight as possible. It wasn't really a conscious thing. It was just an unconscious drive that I had. And I think it was because I had an awareness that I could be gone, you know, in any second. And I went to the edge, and I went all the way to my edge, and then got a second chance. And it was, okay, so what am I going to do with my life now? And I started doing just anything I wanted to do. I mean, you know, it was like, okay, I was a real caretaker in my family. It was like, nah, I'm done. Now it's my turn. And I wanted to maximize the opportunity. And we talked about this yesterday, of taking the opportunity of maximizing the life that you're given. You're given a life. It's only you. There's never going to be another only you. And it's your job to live a big, fat fucking life, right? So maximize the opportunity that you have as this iteration, as we would say in agile technology development. Iterate. You're an iteration, right? You have an iteration of who you are. And I personally think it is my responsibility to maximize everything that I can be, because I want to live my life the fullest. Now, other people's living a life fullest is not an expression like mine. And that's great. That's you. But this is me. So for me, I was voraciously spiritually questioning, and then looking for insights, always praying of like, why did I survive? How did I know that I was ODing? How did that awareness come to me? How did I know that ahead of time when a month later a woman died of exactly what happened to me in the hospital because she did not have the awareness? As you recall, I woke up one morning and I knew that I was dying, and I kept saying it to the medical people over and over and over, I'm dying. My vital organs are going to go one by one, and by the end of the day, I'm going to be dead. And I have no idea how I knew that. Prior to that, my whole execution for the day was barely breathing in and out, and an extremely high fever, my skin peeling off, my nose bleeding, dehydration, hanging on for dear life. But then when my first organ went, and it was my eyes, I was able to communicate to the people the medical professional people there that I was in trouble, and that the whole mantra I had all day, which was my vital organs are shutting down. They're going to go one by one, and by the end of the day, I'm going to be dead. And they just didn't know how to handle that. But then when it finally happened, and my eyes rolled back in my head, then they realized that indeed what I had been saying was accurate. And they gave me a shot to counteract all the drugs since I was ODing.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to make sure. So you had that awareness of it, but then because I feel like I can relate to this in the beginning. In the beginning, your search was more of like, how do I have this, right? Like, what is this, and how do I have it, or why do I have this awareness now? Is that?
Looking back on it, I mean, at the moment, I was literally fighting for my life, right? So I was like, that was it.
Okay.
Yeah, there was nothing. I was simply trying to stay alive. And I had a heightened sense of smell. I was seeing, spirit people in the room. And the fever definitely affected my brain afterward. I mean, I lost a lot of my some of my long-term memories. The thing about losing long-term memories is you don't know what you forgot.
No.
What you don't know.
You don't remember what you forgot.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I have no idea how much I forgot or how much got burnt up. And then the other part of my brain got turned on. That part of me that could see spirit people and hear people and know things. Just, it's just different parts of my head got turned on and other parts got fried up.
Okay.
So afterwards is kind of like where I was like, what the hell was that? And
Mm-hmm.
And now what do I do? Now that my whole life and the entire way I saw myself before, which was a super duper academic achiever, right? Overcompensating in the academic world, dual majors, dual minors, putting myself through school, working 30 hours a week, not one teaching credential, 4 teaching credentials, masters. And I was on a track, of how I saw myself and what I thought I was supposed to do. And now it was just all like,
what the fuck?
Yeah, what the fuck? Totally. Like that. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but I don't want to keep doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And then that was when I started doing the questing, and I never, thought about it. I would just put my whole heart and soul into it. And then, yeah, I'm not sure where to go from here.
And it's yeah, I know. I mean, I'm loving it. It's that when, what that was, I think at that point, that was when you first started seeing spirits, right?
Well,
Or
I saw spirit. You sit there and you pray to to hear the voice of spirit, and you pray, let me get something. And it was just so natural that it didn't occur to me that it was anything that didn't happen to anybody else.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. And, you kind of like went through that process afterwards of just kind of like walking around with this gift and you're not realizing that you had it, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Not until I was married and had my children and they were young and I got the cancer scare that I was back on my knees again, like pissed as fuck. Like, what the hell do you want from me? I've already been through this already. I'm doing fucking every spiritual thing humanly possible. Plus, I feel like I got my shit together here. Like, what the hell? I've got toddlers. I'm not going anywhere. Like, what do you want from me? And it was really aggravating, and I was super mad. And then I was getting my Western medicine treatments and my Let me decline that.
That's okay. I love that ringtone reminded me of remember those old phones that had the
Oh yeah.
remember that
Rotary phone.
the rotary phones, yeah. It reminded me of those. Remember those that it's
Ringtone, yeah.
kind of like a similar ringtone, huh? Right?
Yeah, you should watch. There's some YouTube videos of teenagers, and they'll give kids a rotary phone, and they have no idea how to use them.
How to use it.
It's hilarious. So anyway, when I went back to getting treatments and getting well, and just really bargaining, just a total straight out bargaining, like take this away. I got too much to go to do. I got little kids. I'm not going anywhere. This kind of thing. That's when I was seeing my healers and seeing my Western medicine doctors and my acupuncturists and my nutritionists, and I really wanted this to go away. And then I was seeing at the time a Native American healer who would come in from Vegas every month, and he would do some hands-on work with me. And the last time I saw him there, he was like doing his thing, and he was like, oh, and I was like, oh, shut up, okay? I got a meeting in an hour and a half. Just bust your move and let's go. And he was like, oh no, and I was like, what? And he was like, you are going to be an extremely powerful medicine woman. And I was like, that's great. So can you, like, okay, I validate you. Shut up. Let's go. I got way too much shit to do. And then after, and he did his thing, and I had like trouble walking out of the room. He would like barely touch me, and I could hardly walk across the room afterwards. And he actually had gifted me something which totally struck me. He lived in the Four Corners area, and he came back to me at one point in time, and he had given me 4 feathers, and they were made for me by the spiritual leaders of where he came from. Mm-hmm. And they had been talking about me, and they actually knew me, and I'd never met them. And they prepared some medicine tools for me. And I was so honored and so blown away. And he even said to me, the one medicine person said to him, why do I see her husband over pots? And that's hilarious because my husband was a chef at the time.
Wow.
So I still have those.
That's awesome. That's amazing.
One for north, one for south, one for east, and one for west. And use them to pray, not nearly as often as I should. But I love that session, again, with the mantra, what do you want from me? What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Just tell me what you want. Just tell me what you want. Tell me, what am I supposed to do? Why am I going through this again? I've already been through this fucking shit. I'm done being like, I'm traumatized with my body. This is bullshit. What do you want from me? And then I heard it as clear as if someone was in the car with me, you're psychic. And I was like, what?
For those of you listening, Sara was just going like, no, with her hands, like, no, that wasn't it.
No, this is
that
not
wasn't supposed to be the answer.
No, I'm not going to start wearing rayon flowy clothes and like put a, crystal ball in my front yard. No, that doesn't fit with me. So I called my husband on the phone in the car, and as I told you before, we did a classic Abbott and Costello, who's on first routine.
Which I love that.
Like, hey, I found it. I know what it is. He goes, what is it? I'm psychic. And he's like, I know, but what's it? And I'm like, what's what? What's it? What is it? And I said, I'm psychic. And he goes, I know, but what is it? I'm like, that's it. That's it. And he goes, but that's it? And it was like, yes. And he goes, I've known that about you forever. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And he's like, Sara, we've been together for like 15 years. And like, you've been this way the entire time. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is impossible. And he reminded me that He's like, didn't you just do a vision quest like 3 weeks ago in the middle of the Mojave? And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, well, didn't you just talk to your best friend at like the southwestern position of your space? And I said, yeah. And he goes, well, wasn't her body in Columbus, Ohio? And I was like, yeah. And he goes, well. And I was like, oh, it just never occurred to me, it was just like I'm in spirit, I'm praying, I'm asking, tell me. And when somebody shows up to tell me, I'm like, okay, I have to take notes because I'm not going to remember. It doesn't really occur to me that nobody else doesn't see that person in their own experience.
Exactly. That's what happened in that moment. It just realized, wait a minute, this doesn't happen to other people, right?
And what the fuck do I do with that? As well, I'm supposed to be a psychic and a medium. What the hell do I do with that? I mean, really, I went to a coworker and well, first of all, I told you yesterday, I went to my spiritual teacher at the Sweat Lodge, and I complained and I bitched and I moaned and I was so angry, and this just does not fit who I think I am. And she's like, how long have you been coming to my lodge? I don't know, 10, 12 years. And aren't you always praying to Great Spirit to tell you how you can best serve? And I'm like, yeah. And she's like, I believe the words are, thank you. And I
love that, right? It was like,
oh, fuck. When you're begging, you lose all your bargaining power. Which is not a position I'm accustomed to being in. And so I just sort of had to figure out, what the fuck am I supposed to do with this? And I remember I was just I couldn't say no. I had to just sort of stumble through it and find my way. And I walked up to one of my coworkers at my workplace, and I knew that she was sort of into spiritual things, and I was like, hey, we should schedule a cup of coffee. And she was like, oh yeah, let's have a cup of coffee sometime. I was like, yeah, you want to go to Starbucks and have a cup of coffee and want a psychic reading? And she's like, what? And I was just like, oh, nothing. And she's like, do you want a psychic reading? And I was like, yeah. You want to go to Starbucks Friday or Saturday? And she's like, you're psychic? And I'm like, no, yeah. And, we just totally sat down, and she was like, what do we do? I'm like, I have no idea what to do. And she's like, well,
I'm trying it out on you.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, how about I just sort of I'll be quiet and I'll just tell you what I'm thinking. And she's like, okay, great. And we ended up having a conversation, and it was extremely accurate. And at one point in time, we were conversing, and I heard in my mind, it said, oh, just paint the walls black. And I was just like, that's weird. And she goes, what did you hear? And I said, oh, I just heard this bizarre thing. And she goes, what is it? And I was just like, it didn't make any sense. And she goes, well, just tell me anyway. And I said, okay. It said, paint the walls black anyway. And she went, and I was like, what? And she goes, well, last Saturday, I went to the paint store and I thought, I want to paint this hallway, but I couldn't decide on the color. So I picked up some black paint, and the black paint is sitting in my hallways, and I was trying to decide if I should paint the walls black. And I went, I gotta go home now. And I totally ran to my car, and I screamed. it just freaked me out. It was all so accurate, scared the shit out of me. I called my husband. I'm like, you know, scared the crap out of me. That took a lot of getting used to.
Wow.
That and managing spirit people. Yeah. Herding cats, like toddler kittens. Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't even imagine, you know, I can't even, one thing that I guess interests me in conversations that we've had is, you know, I, after I had my experience, right, my work has been kind of like, I've had to work a lot on letting go and just letting go of the thoughts, letting go of, and not just ignoring them, but letting them flow, right? Letting them flow through without getting caught up in them, and kind of like holding that space of, you know, where that space of you know, thoughts and ego and, you know, work and, you know, my job and, you know, and everything else, you know, and then, but doing all of that from that space of being, right, of awareness, aware that is not really who I truly am. And for me, it's been that work, and you know, I know from a lot of people that I've spoken with, it's not easy work. It's not easy to do, right? And so to me, it's it's amazing, or it's kind of like, I'm amazed at you kind of have another layer apart from that, right? Because with you, it's that awareness, that space, right? That awareness, that external world that we create with everything, with our family and our jobs and everything else. And then you have, oh, by the way, I also see it, talk to spirits, right? It's how has that, you know, I know that, I mean, I can't even imagine, you know, so.
Well, it's definitely, you know, it's a challenge. And it's not like, you know, we talk about it every day or anything like that. It's definitely a service, and it's a humbling service. It's an extremely impactful service. I also structure my work to be very pragmatic. You know, I have an agenda, which is to help this person be a better person. Like, what can we gain to help this person be a better person? And then, or connect with someone that they need to connect with, that will help them, of course, then be a better person, or just bring their grief, you know.
So you kind of bring that intention into it then, right?
Yes. Yeah, we're not just like, you know, kicking back and having cheese and crackers. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So you come in with that intention. And, I'm sorry?
It's about personal growth.
Okay. Yeah. And you actually, I know that yesterday you were telling us you actually that's something that you actually communicate with them beforehand. It's like, okay, we're not just sitting around here. This is going to be the number one intention as well. How is whatever you're going to say going to make this person better, right?
Correct. When I communicate with a living, breathing person, I want them to tell me nothing. I don't want to know their last name. I don't want to know why they're calling me. I don't want to know why we're working together, because the less I know, the better. Then I don't have to shove that out of my head in order to create a clean space. I consider myself a straw, and it comes in and it goes right out. And excuse me. And the less I know about the person, the better. Then I don't, you know. And then when I sit down and we start and we engage, right? So we sit down to do it, because if I did it all the time, I would be living under a freeway ramp, right? Talking to the grocery cart, and I committed, but I claim my own life. So I sit down to do it. And then when we're done, we stop it. And then I go about you know, doing stuff just like everybody else, like, you know, baking cookies for a classroom party or buying dog food or, you know, the same thing as everybody else. Um, but I definitely sit down and we started by saying anyone who wants to come forward to help this person be a better person. And then usually right then I can see, oh, this is what we're addressing, you know. But,
Yeah.
and always gratitude.
I'm sorry?
Always to serving with gratitude.
Oh, I love that. I love that, serving with gratitude. And that's why I think you can, like, every conversation that I have with you, it's that you can feel it's just it's all heart, right?
Thank you.
You know, one of the things I think can can help some people that might not understand, like because I didn't understand what the gifts that you have in the beginning, right? I was like, it's something that, and I know that you're aware of this, it's something that I guess, like, it's not, it's easy, it's hard to understand it. But one of the things that I think you know, and even, I mean, I kind of understood it before a little bit better, but last night it really kind of clicked and helped me, is when you started explaining what happens to us when we die, right? And I kind of felt, I love that there's this quote by Eckhart Tolle, and it was like, it's like the secret of life is dying before you die and realizing there is no death, right? I love that. And I feel like I've experienced that multiple times. It's like I always say, like, I've died multiple times this last couple of years after my awakening, right? Because we literally, if you think about it, it is kind of like dying, because that old self that we thought it was is not there anymore. So it's terrifying, right? And so, and beautiful at the same time. But if you know, when you explained it yesterday, to me, it kind of like that straw metaphor that you use makes a lot more sense. And I know there's a lot of people dealing with death right now, with COVID and all of this. Either they know somebody, or they've heard of somebody, or they are that person, or they're even if they don't know anybody, there is the possibility now, which is, to me, is weird, thinking that some people are like, now we have to get, not weird in a bad way, but some people are like, we have to know that you know, we have to I guess visit the possibility of death, which is, to me, is like, that's the only, there is no possibility of death. That's going to happen. We are all going to die, right? In this, as this physical thing. But when you explain, you know, what happens, you know, if you want to talk, if you want to share with us what happens after we leave this physical experience. And then, to me, that it makes a lot of sense. That straw metaphor that you use makes so much sense when we understand it from that point of view. Does that make sense?
Yes. Okay. So we're going to talk metaphorically and literally. So metaphorically, you said, you know, you have to die to you know, birth the new you, and that happened to me on two circumstances, and one was literal, but the other one was metaphoric. So the shedding of the old to usher in the new is the symbol of spring, right? Right. And the iteration of the circle of life, et cetera, et cetera. Then there's the, you know, people physically pass away, and then there are the loved ones who are left behind. So for the people that are left behind, there's nothing that, I mean, I can explain what happens, and I'd be happy to explain what happens, but it just blows. I mean, when somebody that you love dies, that sucks. There's no such thing as it not sucking. It will always suck, because we are sad for us. We want them here now. There's no compromising. There's nothing that we can say or do. I mean, you know, there is a lot of reassurance and resting and communicating with the person who's passed away, and knowing that, you know, they're in a state of nirvana. But it still sucks because, you know, you make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and customarily you cut it in half and share it with this person. They're not there. That just blows the big one. So that's never going to change because that's us. And people just have to manage grief because it sucks. It's horrible. It's difficult, and that is stamina and grit. There's just all there is to it.
Great.
Now, the person who passes away this is the challenge, because we have to take all that we have designed through the laws of physics, and that we have designed as far as judging things, what's better, what's not better, and then the constructs that people have created through religion or belief systems, and they all just go down the drain. Because the person transcends into a state of being, and everything that we created about that is irrelevant, because we can't even conceive of what, you know, that is. After spending, you know, 17 years of talking to people who have passed away, I do know in my heart of hearts a few things, and that is that when you shed this mortal coil, you shed not only your body, but you shed your illnesses. So mental illness, right? You're going to shed a schizophrenic or a insecurity or a ego attachment or neurosis or maybe an abusive nature, you know, whatever mental construct that created appropriate or inappropriate behavior is dead. So that dies. The other thing that dies is your physical body. And what remains is what we would call the essence of our perfection, right? You can call it a soul, you can call it a spirit, but that's the energetic opportunity that is yours as your life. I'm going to say that again. Your spirit or your soul is your opportunity to express yourself in this iteration of who you are.
Wow.
So that is what I like to say we're human burritos, right? Here's my tortilla, but inside is my soul, that raw energy, which cannot be created nor destroyed, of perfect love that everyone has inside of themselves. Now you would say, what about this murderer? That murderer has that in him or her as well. They simply have, it's not simple, it sucks, it's unacceptable, I'm not condoning anything, period. No. But that mental illness that drives that person to behave inappropriately dies. And everyone's has that core essence. And that is what we walk around with. And the word that's coming through me right now is opportunity. We have the opportunity to give this, take this, use this, move this, expand this, retract this, do whatever we want with this, right? Mm-hmm. And that is what transcends into what I refer to as the divine everything. So everything else sheds away, and that perfection moves into an iteration of existence that is incomprehensible for us. But I do know, after requesting to, oh, what does that feel like? Like I couldn't even get like a whole entire second, I thought that I was going to explode. It was an infinite love that was incomprehensible. I couldn't even tolerate it for an entire second. It wasn't even the tip of the iceberg, but I like to use the word bliss or nirvana because I don't even know how to explain it any other way. So each person, animal, tree, dirt, whatever, goes into the divine everything. And this is where our laws of physics don't apply because they are still who they are, while simultaneously they are also part of everything. How's that?
Like, I love that. I love that. I've had these conversations with so many people. I've never, I guess I have, but not in that word, opportunity, referring to that oneness and that energy as an opportunity to, and it's kind of like, it is like to experience itself through, like you said, expand, do whatever, right? But it's that opportunity. It's that's beautiful. It's kind of like that metaphor that it's like that wave in the ocean. Still, it's a single wave, but it's still part of the ocean at the same time, right? And so that 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 being, that state of being being that energy, that oneness, and at the same time being somewhere else. You referred to that yesterday as kind of like a tomato soup, right? If you put can you repeat? Can you say that? Can you share that with everybody?
Sure.
Because I think that makes a lot of sense.
It's an analogy. I'm very good at analogies.
Yeah.
So if you go in your kitchen and you open up a carton of tomato soup and wait, I gotta check my internet connection. What's going on with my internet connection? That's fine. Okay. You go in the kitchen, you open up a carton of tomato soup, and you put it in a pot. And then you go, oh, I have too many people here. I need to open another carton of tomato soup. So, and then you open up a second one and you pour it in there. There's no way that you can tell where the first carton is and where the second carton is because it's all mushed together. So now we're going to say, let's say that my divine essence upon my transition into the divine everything is like the first carton of tomato soup. Mm-hmm. And then everyone else is the next carton and the next carton and the next carton and the next carton. And you can't tell where one ends and the other begins because it's all out there in unknown divine bliss.
Mm-hmm. And so this is where you come in. You are that straw that can connect, right? From that existence to our existence right now.
Well, I do my best, right? I sit down either on the phone or in person with someone and I put the intention out to serve them. So I'm also doing some crowd control there because I'm not just, because when you ring the dinner bell, everybody shows up because there's really nowhere to go. There is no like go to a place when you pass away. It's just another way to be. So there's never really go anywhere. Everybody's always here all the time.
That leads me to a question, but before that, I want to make sure that I'm respecting your time. Do you still have some more time that we can still have?
I have a little bit of time left.
A little bit more conversation. Okay, perfect. So, and when you say that, that's what happens when we die. We don't really die. We don't go anywhere. There is no place. It's just a transformation of existence, right? Right.
Right. I like to say, you know, how I do my work, it is kind of like this. So if before we had a pandemic and everybody in New York City was walking on a sidewalk in Manhattan, you would walk down the sidewalk and you would pass, what, hundreds of people, right?
Mm-hmm.
And let's say, for example, I'm walking down the sidewalk in Manhattan, and I'm thinking to myself, oh, I gotta get the dog food, and I'm walking and I'm walking. Oh, my brother's birthday's coming up. I gotta remember to do this. Oh, what's going on with this meeting? They moved it up. Oh, God damn it. And would you, in those circumstances, really notice that you walked past probably 300 people?
No, nope. Right?
No.
Nope.
Now imagine that you were on the same sidewalk and you stood still and you said, I'm willing to talk to everybody who passes me.
Uh-huh.
Everybody starts talking to you. It's impossible to hear anything. There's no organization. You're overwhelmed. So it's like, I have to say, I'm going to talk to everybody, but I'm only going to talk to the people who are going to help this person contribute to their opportunity.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And you guys, I don't know, you know, and they know, but I don't need to know. I only know that, okay, this is the intention we're setting, and what comes, comes. And my job is to connect the dots and say the names. If they tell me the names, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, and do the best I can to serve you through that process so that on the other side, you're like, wow, that was so useful. That was so helpful. That has relieved some pain for me. That has really given me marching orders. There's often lots of homework, and that's how it works for me.
Yeah, yeah. So and that's important. I feel like that's important for you know, that you do, that you, there is what you were talking about earlier. That's like, there's the time that you take to do it, but because after you do it, you have to go back and being a a mother, or working, or whatever else you have going on, right? um,
You
do you
can't
have
walk
any,
around
like,
being 100% receptive, or you're not going to be able to drive a car.
exactly. Well, do you have any like experiences that you always, or that you feel like it's something that you'd like to share, an experience of things that, of some things that have happened while you're doing the work, or
I think one thing that would help the general public is that when people transcend, they're in a good place, because there's no such thing as a good place. Now I know that I'm going against a lot of people's belief systems, but there's not any retribution. There's no like bad place to go. There's no punishment. These are constructs that we came up with, and that we put on, and judgment too. Like, oh, that person died. They were, you know, they were a great person. Oh, that person died. They never did anything good. Well, no, that's our judgment again. And so everybody's in a great place, and everybody is around you, and everybody is in a state of bliss. And the type of transition that they were given is not, doesn't matter, you know. And we also add a lot of constraints and judgments, and they're just not applicable, you know. They're just not. Like, oh, that baby was a day old and they had a short life. No, they had a full expression of their opportunity. It just wasn't what I thought it should be. And if it's my baby, well, would I like it to have been a hell of a lot longer? You're absolutely right, I would have. But the fact is that that soul is perfectly in harmony with the great everything. That's one thing I would say.
I love that.
Another thing
I heard
I
the other day, it was that transformation is like we shed our BS. We shed all the BS, the belief system.
yeah. And then the other thing I would say is, just use the opportunity that you have of the life that you're given. It's like a unique bouillabaisse or gravy, just because I love gravy. And it's flavored your own. There's never going to be another you. There never will be another you again, and there will never be. I mean, think about the variables, right? So out of the divine everything, of everything that has ever existed, is the selection, is the ingredients that was made up you, and that's never going to happen again. So make use of it. Don't worry about fucking it up. You can just pivot, don't hurt anybody, but just try to get out of your head and go with it. I know it's really hard. It's hard for me every day, but you just have to make use of the life you've been given and enjoy it. And when your time is over, it's over. So that was brought home to me in a session one time. It's like, wow, damn, I better get on it, because I only have one chance. You have one chance to be you.
Yeah.
So get on it.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I really appreciate your time with us, and this has been a great conversation. I think that's a perfect way to end it, right? And I really, really appreciate it. And I know that you are. If anybody wants to get a reading or a session, they can just look you up. You're on Facebook, right, Sara Larkins?
They can just email me.
Email you.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And do you post notes in your?
Yeah, I'll post the notes. I'll post the emails in the notes. Is it the same one that I already have?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I'll post it in the notes. And and you also do kind of like a subscription kind of like system, right? That
Correct.
And that works like if the person pays like a monthly fee, but they have more access, and it's more intimate, and it's like
right. It's more coaching. My clients usually come to me for two reasons. They're either wanting to accelerate their personal growth, or they want to speak to someone, who has crossed over. And those two things, mix a lot. But yes, so the subscription-based service is more, like we make arrangements and check in on just a smaller bit of time, more focused on that particular thing that's happening now, and get some perspective and some dialogue. I never tell anyone what to do. I just tell them how I see it. It provides a different view, and a lot of like, oh, I never saw it that way before. And that is more an ongoing kind of availability to that kind of
thing. To help them, I guess, with clarity on whatever's going on, right? Well, so I highly recommend that that our viewers reach out to you. I know that you've been such a blessing in my experience, right? And so I really appreciate it, and I really appreciate you. I just wanted to acknowledge that before we go. But thanks so much, Sara.
Thank you,
I appreciate it. Hey, by the way, I'm sorry?
You're pretty sweet yourself.
Thank you. And I love I love that painting that you have in the background. It's awesome.
That's my esposo.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's awesome. I love that. I love that. So
Thank
thank you
you.
so much, and have a great day. I'm
Yeah,
looking
I will.
forward
Take
to
care.
keep on having conversations like this.
That would be great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rafael.
Wow. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.